So hi everyone, today we'll have a leader's guide on Earl, Memnon, Thorvald. So Earl, Memnon, Thorvald is one of the easier characters to play. I think it's one of the suggested characters to play when you start Dune Imperium. However, there are some things that are not very good about him, and I'll talk about it in this video. So the overall structure to this video is as follows. We'll cover when to pick Memnon and some of the early game objectives of him. In the recent tournament, one of the players, Heretic, picked Memnon in the first position and he ended up winning the game. So we'll cover some highlights from that game as well and pick up some of the good things that he did in order for him to secure the win. So when do you pick Memnon? So Memnon's Signet Ring ability that allows him to get one spice whenever he uses his Signet Ring. The value of one spice is decent, but it's also very hard to rate. Spice is good, but it's very hard to rate the value of it. How many spice convert into a point? Maybe 6 to 7. I think on average it takes 6 to 7 spice plus 1 action. So if you're gonna play your ring 3-4 times, then you still need to find a way to convert it to a point somehow. When we talk about his passive ability, his connection, so it's a one-time ability that when you take the High Council seat, you get a faction bump. This is decent, however it's not amazing as well. Most other leaders, when you want to get High Council after you get Swordmaster, and this is generally around rounds 3 to 6 depending on your position and access to Solari. Based on the current stats that we have for Memnon has a 9% win rate, and in the about 10-11 games that he has played. So I think 11 games he's played, he's won 1 game. This is not fantastic, right? So before this win by Heretic, he had a 0% win rate. So 10 games he lost everything. I mean, the number of picks is low, but I still think he's not very strong. So that's why his pick rate is not high. So once again, you can always pick this leader. However, it's not very strong. So if other people are picking very meta leaders, do expect to fall behind slightly. So his Signet Ring ability, I think, is the most pressing question. So, of course, you get your Signet Ring early, and what do you do with Spice? So, what do we do with early Spice? We buy techs. So this is similar to leaders like the Beast. You know, Beast starts with 1 Spice, and Memnon, if he draws his ring round 1, he also starts with that 1 Spice. However, he can always draw it round 2 and have not access to that spice round 1. So we want to pick Memnon when we can utilize this spice, and this comes in the main form of utilizing the spices comes in the form of early techs. So the cheap techs, mainly the 2-cost techs, and in some cases you can get the 3 or 4-cost techs as well, based on the spice on the board or just by maneuvering to grab spice slightly earlier. Okay, some of these techs I would not recommend, and I think you should focus on the ones that provide you benefit early, be it wind traps, memo quarters, mimic film, training drones, disposal, hull projectors, or in some specific cases restricted ordnance, as he generally likes to get High Council early. So if these techs are in the row, and if multiple of these techs are in the row, do consider picking Memnon. So pick Memnon when there are cheap techs. So we'll talk about some of the early game objectives with Memnon and how you should play him the first few rounds. So we talked a little bit about buying techs. So buying techs is really quite simple. You actually just kind of play your Signet Ring to Tech Negotiator and just buy a tech. And this will give you 2 spice, and if you have some spice from combat or picked it up earlier, you can always grab some of the more expensive techs. Right? But overall, Memnon is very flexible a leader. He does not really have a very fixed path, but he does want to utilize his spice, and he wants to plan for High Council. So you definitely want to get High Council sometime in the game, because the value of High Council for you is a lot higher than other leaders. So once again, this flexibility is good, however, it's not extremely strong as compared to other leaders. This is indicative of his win rate as a leader in this recent tournament. So we'll talk about planning for High Council. So whenever you get High Council, whenever you take a seat on the High Council, you get a faction bump, and this happens once per game. So when is a faction bump good? So the line to High Council normally revolves around Swordmaster. Okay, in the most ideal situation, you want to get Swordmaster early and you want to get High Council second. This is because when you have excess actions, you feel a bit more free to spend your dagger to send it to High Council to take a seat. However, if you only have 2 actions, sending 1 action to go to High Council sometimes can kind of feel bad if you just grab High Council for most leaders. So this is the line which most leaders take. However, I think for Memnon, he can take High Council first because there are other benefits that he gets, which is this faction bump. So the line that you take to High Council cannot be just a rush to High Council. It has to give you some other benefits along the way. I think the benefits that you want to consider, or the hindrances that you want to consider, is that in some games you're just in no position to get Swordmaster, right? You have the Solari, but you don't have position. Like if everyone has a Solari, they will generally buy it on their first action, generally. And so if you are not in position to buy Swordmaster, you can always just grab High Council. This is if you end up getting Swordmaster around 5 or onwards. If you know that you'll get it round 5 onwards, you can always grab High Council first. Okay. So another reason to get High Council is to get a high persuasion breakpoint. So the High Council seat gives you 2 persuasion, and if this enables you to buy a powerful card, be it 6 to 8 costs, it is a very good time to go High Council, even if you do not have Swordmaster. Lastly, if it enables you to get the Spacing Friendship, and you also must be in position to go Interstellar Shipping. So means that once you get your High Council seat, maybe round 2, round 3, like the subsequent rounds after that, you get Interstellar Shipping. I think at least 2 rounds is good. So how do we get to this point when we go for High Council? One way you can do this is to conspire. So there are many ways to do it. You can smuggle, you can win combat rewards, but assuming everything, you don't get anything, one way you can do it is to go to conspire. So let me just talk a little bit about this space of conspire. So normally I don't like the space of conspire. The reasoning is that I think the most valuable thing on this spot is the Solari. Like when everyone looks at this spot, they think about the Solari first. They don't even think about the troops or the intrigue. And the reason that they think of the Solari is because Solari is the most important early game, and late in game is not very useful. So Conspire, one thing about Conspire, doesn't bring you to the 8 Solari breakpoint that you need for Swordmaster. So the path to Conspire and to Swordmaster is as follows. Okay, so generally you need to collect water in order for you to go to the Great Flat. So in the round 1, you are collecting water. Round 2, you are collecting the Great Flat Spice. Then after that, you're going to Conspire. And then in round 4, you need to hit Wealth as well. You need to hit Wealth as well to hit to 7, and then you get another Solari, hopefully by someone else smuggling. And that is your Swordmaster. So this requires 3 faction access, which faction access also is not necessary you'll get it round 3, you might get it round 4 as well. So and you need you only get it round 3 second action, and if you get it round 3 second action, you probably will get it round 4, right? So you'll maybe you'll get it round 4, and you actually invested all your resources to get this Swordmaster. You get 2 troops and an intrigue, but it is generally inefficient. So why is it different from Memnon? For Memnon, it's slightly different as you hit the 4 spice breakpoint earlier, and you don't really require 5 Solari. You don't really require 8 Solari, you just require 5. So instead of collecting water, instead your first action you can just collect the Haga Basin water with round 2 and with your ring, or you can use your ring round 1 as well. And then with your second action round 2, you can conspire. And sometime during your third turn, and generally it's uncontested, you can get High Council. So this is why I think Conspire is okay for Memnon, because High Council is good for him, and you just need to hit a 5 Solari breakpoint. So the other things you want to do with your spice is you either want to go to the spice spots or buy techs. Okay, so I think with 1 or 2 extra spice bumps, you can hit these spots like Highliner early, or you can buy various techs. So whatever you see, you have more access to it just because you have more spice. So do consider these lines as well. I think these lines are very strong, especially getting Highliner. I think Highliner is one of the spots that I think people are coming around more and more to sometime in the early to mid game. So once again, early game objectives: buy techs, plan for High Council, and to utilize your spice. Once again, Memnon is very flexible. There's no distinct path you want to take, but you generally want to hit all these 3 points. So let's talk a little bit about Heretic's Memnon win. So Heretic, in his round of 14, table A, he played Memnon, and if you can see by the thumbnail, right, it is a surprise, right? It's a surprise that Memnon is picked, and at this high level. If you look at the leaders that he was offered, he wasn't offered very great leaders. However, there were some other playable leaders as well, but he picked Memnon in this situation. It's an interesting game, you should check it out. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to talk about the leaders that Heretic was given. He was given Ariana, Princess Yuna, Memnon, Paul, and Romber. I think out of all these leaders, Yuna and Romber are favoured slightly more. They currently have around a 20% win rate, whereas Memnon had a 0% win rate. But in this situation, he decided to pick Memnon. I think Yuna or Romber are okay as well. But in this sense, he's not picking against a really top tier leader. He's kind of have to pick between some mid-tier leaders and some of the weaker ones. So now if you can see, for his first hand of the game, he has a terrible hand. He does not draw his signet ring, he does not draw any faction access. He's in first position and he has no way to go to full space to block Handro. What he does in this situation is that he spends his first action to go to Tech Negotiators. I think he goes to Tech Negotiators kind of to block other people from taking the techs, and also to give him a better buy round. With his second action, he actually goes to Arakeen. He goes to Arakeen, draws a card. I think out of all the cards that he have drawn, one of them is Seek Allies, but the rest of him will grant him at least 1 persuasion. This gets him up to 5 persuasion and potentially 6 if he draws the other convincing. But in the end, he draws his signet ring and it only gets up to 5 persuasion. So using this 5 persuasion, he buys Chani. This gives him an additional water. So round 1 ends, he ties for third place, he gets 1 spice. Right, he puts in 2 troops, so it's actually quite an expensive spice to get. However, blue also loses 1 troop, so relatively it's like paying 1 troop for this spice. He does not have a very good opening hand. He has not utilized his ring at all, and yeah, he's in a bad position. So round 2 comes around, and using the water that he got from Chani, he goes to the Great Flat. In the previous round, the Haga Basin spice has already been collected by Handro, thus spice did not accumulate. But there was 1 spice on the Great Flat. Using the water that Memnon got from Chani, he used it to go to the Great Flat. This brings him up to 5 spice. Using the 5 spice, he used Seek Allies to go to Conspire. This gets him up to 7 Solari. And the reason he gets 7 Solari at this point is because other people have shipped up and down already. So round 3 comes around, and he currently is in no position to get a Swordmaster. So red will get Swordmaster this round, and green probably will get it this round as well. So if he does get Swordmaster, it will be round 4. Instead, what he chooses to do with this turn is he chooses to use both his daggers. So the first thing he does is to use his dagger to go to tech negotiators and buy memo quarters. So buy memo quarters gives him 1 faction bump, and he takes the faction bump in the Spacing Guild. Using his other dagger, this is round 3, he goes to collect High Council. So when he collects High Council, he takes his other faction bump in the Spacing Guild as well. And now you can see that he actually has firm control of the Spacing Friendship. And he is in position to ship round 4, round 5, as he is the first player. So Baron X after him, so he can ship round 4, round 5. So he converts his High Council seat not just into Persuasion, but into the Spacing Friendship as well. So he's lucky in this round also to pick up Web of Power. So he has a total of 7 Persuasion, and because of that, when he buys the first card, he has enough Persuasion left behind to buy Web of Power. Let me just play out this, how it has went for him.
Memnon's gonna reveal.
So he reveals for 7. With 7, he picks up
he
picks out a 3-costed card, and because he has additional Persuasion, he is able to buy Web of Power. Sure, there's some luck, but this luck was enabled by the actions that he took. Like if he didn't have the Persuasion, it would flip and he would have to pass it on. So he continues to use his Persuasion well. So in rounds 4, he buys Boundless Ambition with the 5 Persuasion that he has. With his 9 Persuasion round 5, he buys a Spice Must Flow. So in round 6, he actually has a trigger of Boundless Ambition, and he has 8 Persuasion, not enough to buy Spice Must Flow. He plays Water of Life to draw 3 cards, and this is slightly inefficient because he uses his Boundless Ambition to grab Stilgar first, and actually Chom Directorship actually reveals itself. Without playing Water of Life, he actually could have bought it, and he could have saved Water of Life for later. But in this situation, he still buys Chom Directorship, which is very good for him as he has Memo Quarters on the field. So round 8 comes around, and he ends off the game actually at 12 points. Okay, he ends off the game with not triggering Memo Quarters, but winning the combat. I think he was very close to triggering Memo Quarters, but with 12 points and Spice and Charmurky as the tiebreakers, and he also has more Spice than Handro, he wins the game. So he had a bad start, but he had high Persuasion, and with high Persuasion and a little bit of luck, he converted it into some very good cards and eventually carried him to the win. So I think when we look back about this game, the key line that he took is to get is in round 2. In round 2, he got the Great Flat and he went to Conspire, and this allowed him to get the Spacing Friendship round 3 and capitalize on it round 4, round 5. In essence, helping him to catch back up in this game, even though he fell behind early. So I think this is a great game for you all to study, and if you all want to check it out, I'll put in the links below. So to close off this video, this is how you play Earl, Memnon, Thorvald. Once again, not a very strong leader, but very flexible. Fun now and then to pull out a win with him. But if you ask me if he's the most competitive, I'll tell you no. I don't think anyone has figured out a way for him to be top tier. And if someone does and I catch wind of it, I'll definitely share it with all of you. So I think after this, I'll also share one game where I played Memnon. If you want to watch it, do stay behind. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you around. Hi everyone, so this is one of the games where I played Memnon in 3rd position. I think I picked Memnon in this position because I was making a guide and I think it was on my mind. I think there are also good techs on the row. There is wind traps, there's memo quarters, and there is disposal facilities, all which I'm happy to pick up as Memnon. Hence, that's why I pick him. So let's get into the game. So in the first round, I have diplomacy and I have my signet ring. In the row there is Tailexu Master, and I don't really care about it. But blue decides to nuke it anyway. This is very common when you see Talisu Master in the row. I think it happens quite a fair bit. I'm not sure if it's the right play overall, and we don't have the stats to say whether it's correct or wrong. I think things that I want to do is I want to grab early tag. But let's see what happens. So because Paul gives the spacing friendship to the beast, I think one of the most powerful things you can do in Immortality is to actually get early Sword Master. So hence I choose to play my Signet Ring to Smuggling. Red decides to reveal for a 4 buy just to pick up Jameis early. I don't really agree with his play. I think using his experimentation is better. On my turn, I decide to get Wealth, and the reason I don't go into combat is I don't value this combat very highly because it's not Solari, and I need the 2 extra Solari in order for me to get Sword Master next round. On my turn, with 3 to buy, I just nuke the row and buy Plan Coupling. I think the earlier buys are the most important, and thus I'm actually in favor of nuking early rather than late. Ideally, you want to nuke it when you have 5, but I think about your first 2 hands and whether you'll even get to 5. So the second round comes around is a Solari round. All I want to do is to go to Smuggle and then get Sword Master and then play my Seek Allies. Bit curious why the beast gives shipping access to Leto. So I get Sword Master. And I'm very happy to limp into combat with 1 troop just to get the 2 Solari. So even though I have Sword Master already, I do value early Solari highly. So with extra actions, I do pick up the Talisu card that allows you to go to a faction spot. I think if you have extra actions, just going to faction spots is very, very good. So you should pick up cards that allow you to go to faction spots. I also pick up a liaison. I think 1 is okay in the deck. In this situation, I actually do want to play plan coupling the most. And so I choose to play with my experimentation, even though I do want the yellow access. But playing grafting with experimentations is very, very strong. If you have graft cards, do graft it with experimentations. So I just take a faction bump. I think now what I'm considering is grabbing the spice of the Great Flat. I'm a bit surprised that the beast doesn't get Swordmaster here, as it gives Leto the ability to grab Swordmaster. A bit worried about Leto in this position. I think he has a good position. He has shipping access. He has Swordmaster around 3. All good things. So I think about what I want to do with my spice. And I end up going to Highliner. So I put in, I think, a little bit more than the beast. And I think with dagger and cannon turrets behind me, I am safe. After Leto puts in troops, I'm a bit worried. Glad that beast has less swords than me. And so now I understand why Leto wanted to come in with swords. I expect him to have a combat intrigue in hand. So actually, yellow talks about buying a Talisu card, and actually I actually miss it as well. So because he wants to buy, I choose to buy as well. This is all agreed on the table through voice. So combat comes around and yellow passes. I'm a bit surprised, but I think he had his swords in hand and he wanted to just use them. So this is round 4. I don't have a very good hand, but I do know I want to play the Fremen card. So I play the Fremen card first, as it's the most risky to play. I am considering going to research station, and because of that, I don't really want to be in a situation where I don't have any water and blocked on still suits. This gets me the 2 spice. So in this situation, I'm very happy to grab the High Council seat. This is enabled by blue giving me a Solari arrow key. And so I take a safe play, I just go to smuggle. I don't really want to draw cards this round, I have enough persuasion. And I don't really want to trigger a reshuffle as well. So it comes back around to me. I think in this situation I'm choosing between opulence and appropriate. I think a lot of people will choose opulence as it's a point generator, but I really value appropriate. I think appropriate also generates you points. You just don't see it immediately. Yep, I played Cannon Towers to cycle and I luck into stage incidents. I have 2 points in hand. So currently we're in round 5. I think similar approach. When you have a faction excess card, you want to play your faction excess card. Yep, and they gave shipping to me, so I took it. So your faction card, you go to a faction space. That's about it. Okay, I mean you don't grab anything great to it, but yeah, you draw an intrigue. It's plans within plans. It's very good for me. In this situation, I choose to go to Conspire. I think I need the Solari either way, and I have appropriate in my deck. So overall, it's a good play to do, and I can always burn my Chome shares. So currently, I have 4 friendships, 1 alliance, Chome shares, a Scarab point, and as well as a 1 victory point from combat. All in all, leading me to 8 VPs end of round 5. So I just buy 2 precision cards, thinking about plans within plans. So next round comes around, I'm second to act. I have appropriate in hand. I have I am close to generating a scarab through the type X37 or something, and also I can get another scarab if I go to a Fremen space. So I get space ports by using appropriate. This draws me 3 cards. So I think about triggering. I think about buying spice from slow this round. So first thing, I collect spice. This enables me to buy another tag that might trigger my machine culture endgame, as well as it enables me to play X37 and get a scarab. So because someone else bought a tag, now flagships has revealed itself, and with machine culture in hand and with no one else having access to it, I'm able to buy it. So I look at the cards I have in hand, and I'm currently at 6 persuasion, right? And 6 persuasion, and I cannot buy a spice of slow, but because of how it is, I'm able to put in troops and get trigger stage incident, machine culture for flagships. I think in this situation you can see how any leader can actually quite high roll himself to victory. Even low tier leaders like Memnon, round 6 end the game with some insane luck. The spice does come in useful. I think at the end of the game I end up with 0 spice even though I played my ring multiple times. It allowed me to go to highliner early. It allowed me to grab conspire for the Solaria I needed. But so overall it's very flexible, but you do need to convert that flexibility into something else. And in this particular circumstance, I converted it into a highliner round 3. So I think the better game to watch between my game and Heretic's game is probably Heretic's game. In Heretic's game, he is really put at his wit's end, and he finds a line through Conspire. This line is not popular for other leaders, and thus is not easily blocked, but it turns out good for him overall. I think if he had slightly better hands, he might even come to a even faster win. But he saw he had a bad hand, other players had good openings, but he did come out of the win. So pick Memnon when there are some cheap tags available. Hope the luck favors you, and try to win your game. I hope you enjoyed this video.